Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of TEPSA Presents. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. Thank you for joining us for this conversation tonight. We do TEPSA Presents twice a month, and this one just happened to fall on election night. So we know there's a lot going on in addition to everything else we have going on, but we have brought together a few of our favorite people from across the state of Texas. And so I will let them kind of introduce themselves. We'll start with you, John.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight. My name is John Flores. I'm the proud assistant principal of Montwood Middle School over in Socorro ISD in El Paso, Texas.
Thanks for being here. Annette?
Hi, my name is Annette Sanchez, and I'm a principal down in Beeville, South Texas. I'm also the past TEPSA state president, and I'm sitting on a national task force right now, so I'm excited about that. So good afternoon, good evening, and I'm glad to be here today.
Thanks, Annette. Dr. Gutierrez?
Matthew Gutierrez here, and I am the proud superintendent of Seguin ISD, located just outside of San Antonio.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. And last but not least, Josh.
Yeah, my name is Joshua Stamper. I'm an assistant principal in Frisco ISD, and I'm super excited to be with you all tonight.
Well, I am so thankful for you all joining here. And we titled tonight's episode, Leading in Times of Uncertainty, because as we have heard from administrators, and I know that you all can attest to as well, is that these times are unlike any other as a leader. When you've got a pandemic, you've got social unrest, you have this reckoning on race, we've got all these things happening that we're also leading during, and it's something that none of us have ever had to do before. So we want to bring some of y'all together just to kind of share some ideas, resources, what you're doing, everything like that. And so when doing this, the first thing I want to ask you is, kind of how are you holding up? So far? I mean, it's October, but it feels like April. And so how are you holding up? And when you ask that, I want to know, are you doing anything in particular that you're doing to help you balance or take care of yourself or anything like that? So Annette, we'll start with you.
Okay, my biggest thing is I'm making as much connection as I can with the staff. Exactly what you're doing now. How are you doing? What's going on? How can I help you? I think sometimes we get, so in the rush of things and we forget that connection. And right now, even if people don't look like they're struggling, some of them are, they're doing things that they never have. And I send quick texts even to my staff, after school. And I'll tell them, there's lots of quotes and things, but to stop beating themselves up because it's not a normal school year. Are you taking care of kids and are you taking care of yourself? And right now I'm making sure that I'm making that connection. And I think it's really helped the culture of my school and supporting my staff.
Yeah, Josh, I think about you as an assistant principal. How are you holding up in the midst of this as being somebody who not only is supporting your principal, but also supporting your team? And what are you doing? Because I know you've also got 5 kids at home too.
I do. I have a handful, literally. With that, I think it's just the balance of time, making it very strategic. So, my time at school is my time at school, and I'm going to support everyone, my staff, my principal, as much as I can. But after that time, making kind of a hard stop and then turning myself over to my family so I can be a husband, I can be a father to those 5 kids, and making sure that those don't blend over, because I think if that does, you're gonna drop one of those plates, right? If we're spinning all these plates and we're trying to make sure that we don't allow anything to fall, but those things blend, something eventually is going to fall to the ground. And so I want to make sure that I'm attentive in each of those aspects of my life. So I think that balance, you have to make sure that you're strategic with your time.
Well, John, you've also got kids at home, and you are right outside of El Paso, and y'all have got, you've been on the news a lot lately, dealing not only with all the craziness, but now a huge influx of cases. And I know you were telling me before that your school is predominantly, I think you said 98% virtual right now. So what are you doing to kind of keep your own sanity?
So again, I want to reiterate what Annette and Josh said, is just really finding that balance, making sure that you are present wherever you are. When we're at school, that we're giving 100% on the campus. There's so much going on right now, so much information. Sometimes we're hour to hour or day to day based on the information that comes out. But then once we come home, finding that balance and being present, putting that dad cap on, making sure that we're supporting our kids because it's also a new norm for them. But just talking with our staff and maintaining that importance of that self-care, finding, it's okay to not be okay, and if you need to take a day or if you need to take some time, it's okay.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for leaders, that's always hard for us to know when it's time to take care of us because we all take care of our staff so much. And so, Dr. Gutierrez, you bring a totally different perspective as the superintendent here and, joining in and adding that. And we've got LaToya here too. LaToya, we'll jump to you in just a minute, but I'll finish up with Dr. Gutierrez. But, as a superintendent, Dr. Gutierrez, you're balancing even more plates. And so what are you doing to kind of hold it all together?
Well, certainly the perspective is a little bit different. Not only are you're dealing with a pandemic, you're trying to take care of 13 different campuses, you're also dealing with the politics that this pandemic unfortunately has become part of. And so there's a lot of change, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's certainly a lot of opportunity for chaos, and that's where I think effective leadership comes into play. But when it comes to finding some balance, and one of the things that I'm always stressing to employees in Seguin ISD is making sure that you take care of your emotional and physical well-being first, so that you're on your A game every single day, because our students need us on our A game. But finding balance as a superintendent is very difficult because the job is 24/7. What I find to be ever more so critical now is having an effective, high-functioning team surrounding me, and because of that team of outstanding leaders who I have the privilege of working with, that's what gives me the balance as a superintendent.
Right. I love that. And I think, that's so important to make sure that you are surrounding yourself with a team because we can't carry the load, especially in times like this on our own. Well, LaToya, we are so excited that you are joining us as well. LaToya, if you will kind of introduce yourself, who you are, where you work, and then the question we're asking right now is, how are you doing and what are you doing to not lose your own sanity?
Hi, my name is LaToya Patterson. I'm the proud assistant principal at Anderson Elementary in Spring ISD. And we are really just trying to take care of each other, making sure that I'm spending time with family, making sure I'm getting enough rest, which is kind of hard to do as an educator, but making sure I'm surrounding myself with the people and the things that are most important to me. One of the other things that we're doing just as a campus is just making sure that we're pouring into our staff and making sure that their buckets are filled, that we're being bucket fillers and not bucket drainers, trying to support everyone as best we can to get through these difficult, challenging times.
I love that. Well, as we're going through these times, it's like last year we dealt with some of this when we all had to cancel schools in March and figure out the rest of the year. But it's nothing like what it is starting a school year and then figuring out, are we virtual now? Are we in person? We're going back and forth kind of thing. And so when we go through things like this, I'm always a firm believer that we learn a lot about who we are. We learn some of our weaknesses are amplified, but we also learn some of our strengths as well. So I'd love to know, over the last 8 months, what's something that you've really learned about yourself? And so, Josh, we'll start with you.
Well, definitely when we were in the spring during all virtual, I think I think of myself as an introvert, but I think I'm an introvert extrovert. I think I learned that of myself is like I needed that in-person experience with the kids. I missed them. I missed being with the staff. Still to this day, like not being able to hug someone with the kids. I think that was something I didn't expect. There's just certain aspects that as we continue to go through this, that personal feeling, it's been great to actually be on campus with kids. We're both virtual and face-to-face now, but in the spring of last year, I think that was the biggest thing that I missed was, having that, those people in front of me, the relationships and building through that way. So I actually had to find other ways to get connected, and not so much I was connecting with people on my campus through text and Voxer and those things, but then also trying to find connections outside of my campus to find that support as an administrator to, I think LaToya said it great, right? To get our bucket filled. how are we doing that? And so Annette was talking about connections with people on campus, which is really important. But I think there's also something that we need to do is make sure that we're finding other administrators and other people in our own same position to make sure that we're finding that support system.
Yeah, it's great advice. And, Dr. Gutierrez, I'm sure you have especially learned a lot about yourself during these times. What's something that really stands out to you?
I certainly have. I feel like I learned something about myself every single day as a new challenge is encountered. But every single employee within a school system, a school is learning something about themselves every day, especially right now during the pandemic. But one of the things that I feel that I've learned and really in having taken a lot of time to reflect, but a lot of time to really think about the leaders that I have the opportunity to work alongside, is that we are resilient. And I've always thought that educators had resilient tendencies, but we've been able to rise to the occasion no matter what challenges have come our way. I think that there has been, unfortunately, there have been some who are making an effort to undermine public education and take advantage of this pandemic, right. And use this as a way to promote private voucher. And I could go on, and it's election day. But what we have proven is that no matter what challenge comes our way, we are going to overcome. We're going to do whatever it takes to ensure that all students are learning and growing. Yeah. And I think at the end of all of this, we're all going to be better educators. And we're currently undergoing a huge transformation in public schools across the country, especially in Texas. And we're going to come out stronger because of this. And we're going to continue to be very competitive with those private and charter schools. And that's what I have found. I think discovered about myself, but not only myself, but others as well.
Well, and you bring up a great point, and that is, when we're going through the trial, we don't always see how we're going to come out better, but we do come out better and stronger, just like you said, even while we're going through this. And I love so many points you brought up there. Well, Annette, as a principal, I know you can associate with the idea of, when you were thinking about coming back this year as the head of that campus, you had to relook at everything. I mean, even something as simple as, how are we going to get water breaks? How are they going to line up in the hall? And so I know you've learned a lot about yourself during this time too. So what's something that stands out that you've learned about yourself?
I think the biggest thing is, as leaders, all of us, sometimes we feel like we have to be the strongest person in the room. We have to know everything. There was a lot that happened, that we had no idea. Things were changing on a day-to-day basis. And so I think sometimes we have to see that there is strength sometimes in vulnerability, and that as leaders, we need to sometimes show that vulnerability, because technically that's the only way that you build connection. And I'm always known as this happy-go-lucky, let's do this. And I think sometimes we do have to step back and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't know the answer to this question right now because it's changing, but I'm here to support you, and we're going to get through it together. Just like Dr. Gutierrez said, we are resilient. We do persevere. And I think, if anything, he's absolutely right. And you're right. We are all going to make it through this, and we're going to be stronger for it.
I love that. And, you said something there that I really, it stuck out to me. You talked about being vulnerable as a leader. And I think it's even more important now, because going back to what Josh said, we don't have that physical contact that we're used to having with our staffs, whether it's high fives or hugs or whatever. And so we've got to find ways to continue to emotionally bring people in, since we can't physically do it right now, or we shouldn't be physically doing it right now. And so what about you, LaToya? What have you learned about yourself?
Being flexible is key. This has certainly been a year, 2020, where you get to really flex those flexibility muscles and stretch it all out. Also that we went as a team. And so just knowing that you don't always have all the answers, and being willing to reach out to others, to collaborate, and to talk things out so that you can figure out the best way to move forward. And if you are willing to do that, then good things come out of that. I think if we are a united front, then our kids are going to feel secure and they're going to be happy. And so as we've weathered some of these storms with the opening of school and all the challenges that it brought, knowing that we as a staff can lean on each other and knowing that it's okay to not have all the answers. So
I love that. And, you said something there that resonated with me too. It's the whole idea of teamwork. We always talk about it and you always know the importance of it. But I think these times have really exemplified the importance of leaning on others and working together. So I love that you shared that. Well, John, what about you?
For me, I'm a very highly structured person and I need things a certain way. And, my calendar, what does my day look like? Things like that, as I'm sure a lot of my colleagues here are as well. And as you know, just with COVID is a very fluid situation. So from, one hour to the next, things change. And that was very difficult for me at first. Very, very difficult was just, these big changes, these, the emotions that go with it, then dealing with the, supporting your staff with the different emotions that come with that as well. And I finally just kind of came to terms with it that, John, you got to accept it. Now is the time where you got to be more flexible. Sometimes things are, there's that gray area, that we really got to look at, and we got to pivot sometimes. My superintendent uses that word pivot. We got another pivot coming. And, with my leadership team, that's a word that we use. Here's another pivot. And we've shared with our staff and, we joke around with it and it but it has helped. But, just really anticipating and just going with the flow as we go.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'm sorry, every time I hear the word pivot, I think of that Friends episode every single time. But you're so right. We do have to be able to pivot. Well, I think we have a lot of administrators and educators who are listening tonight and thinking, my team is near burnout. Like I said earlier, it's November, but it feels like April. Like I've already used my whole year's worth of stuff already to try to just keep them going and keep them energized, and I'm running out of ideas. And so what I'd love to give y'all an opportunity is I'd love to have you share something that you've done this school year to connect with your people, to build relationships, to pour into them, to check on them, anything, however insignificant it feels. What's something that comes to mind that you're like, well, we did this and that was kind of cool, that built some more relationship, that kept us showing up tomorrow, if maybe not next week, but at least it got them to come back tomorrow, because sometimes we're taking really small steps. So when you're thinking about that, LaToya, what's something that comes to your mind that y'all have done at your school?
Well, I think gratitude is just so important, just to show that you're grateful for all of the good things that are going on. So we can really harp on, 2020 was a terrible year, but there's so much to be thankful for. And so showing that to our staff. So like tomorrow we have sip and cider. So we have cider that we're going to take on a little cart and take it around to all of our teachers. We bought them all books. I think I talked about it before with the sandwich swap. Cookies, ice cream. I mean, we like to fill our teachers' bellies up. We used to always give out like jeans passes, but now the district said everyone can wear jeans. So we had to get more creative with how we can show them that we love them and we appreciate them. But just sometimes going, every morning I go door to door and I say, good morning. I hope you have a wonderful day. Is there anything that you need? And just letting the teachers know and the kids know that I appreciate you. I love you. I'm glad that you're here and that you came back today. So those are some of the things, like playing music at Car Rider that just lifts the parents' spirits, it lifts the kids' spirits, it makes Car Rider fun, especially when you're out in 40-degree weather. So just finding ways to show that you are grateful for the people that surround you.
I love that. And LaToya, I gotta ask, my former assistant principal found a fanny pack that she would wear that had speakers built into it that you would play your music through your fanny pack. Have you seen that?
No, and I want it.
It's on Amazon. Go look it up. But it was the coolest thing. Like she's just everywhere she goes is bumping music out of her fanny pack, and it's so cool. So definitely check that out. But I love those ideas. And you shared something. Teachers are they love food, and we all do. We all love the food. And one thing that I wasn't thinking about and didn't expect is one of the things we can't do right now are potlucks. And those were such a great thing to bring us together. So finding different ways like the sip and cider, I love those little things. And you know, as especially elementary educators, we're all about finding those little rhyming titles or those little things like that. So I love it. Thank you. Well, what about you, John? What is something that y'all have done?
So the two things that came in mind was with the anticipated shutdown, and once we came back on campus, one of the things that we did was we coordinated a kind of like a drive-by with our teachers, and we set them up with a bunch of. We got them a new laptop, we got them a mouse, some all the bells and whistles to welcome virtual learning, and they got a nice box with it. With a nice message and a lot of different treats, because who doesn't like treats, and teachers love to be spoiled. The next thing that we also did was my counselors have been leading like SEL circles, just like how, we do a lot of restorative circles with our kids. We did that they've been doing some of that with our teachers, and so it's completely optional, and it's really neat because they start off with a read aloud, just to relax the nerves of everybody, and then there's a little icebreaker that they do, and then there's just some talking, and it's really has built campus culture, rapport, and again, it's completely optional, but my counselors have done a phenomenal job rolling that out to help ease that SEL with our teachers.
I think you made a great point there, John, that sometimes we think that some of these things are just meant for the kids, but they work just as well for the adults. And we can't forget about the social and emotional side of our adults on campus and that connection that they have with each other and us pouring into their emotions and helping them manage, because even though we are adults, regardless of our age, we don't always know how to manage our emotions well, especially in unexpected situations like a pandemic. So I think those are great ideas. What about you, Annette? What is something y'all have done?
I'll tell you, there are two things, and they really made a big impact on my staff. One of them was positive calls. I had a new teacher, and this is, if y'all can try this, it's crazy because it's so emotional. But I had a new teacher, and she came in, and I was kind of talking to her, and a lot of the new teachers are struggling. They're brand new. They're coming into a new situation. And I told her, I said, hey, I'd like to tell your mom something. I said, what is her number? She said, my mom? I said, yeah. And her mom lives far away, I said, so she gave me the number. I had her stand right there, and I called mom. I said, hello, my name's Annette Sanchez. I'm your daughter's principal. And I just want to tell you what an exceptional job she's doing. She's teaching the kids. She's still holding high expectations. She has all these wonderful ideas. Her mom was like, oh my gosh. And that teacher was just crying, And I'll tell you that there's something to be said when somebody calls your loved one and tell them that you're doing a great job. And that really made an impact on me more than anything else. But I could tell she came back and she said her mom sent her this so nice. I've always been proud of you. I've been, and I think it's important to do that. Important to bring the aspect of caring, really, for humanity, because we're all humans. And then the second thing I did that I thought was pretty fun is I got some blocks. And any of you can do this. They're little blocks. And I kind of put COVID on it. And another one I put admin. And another one I put social distancing, screeners. And in one of my PLCs that week, I have PLCs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I gave the rubber band to my staff, and I said, I want you to hold this rubber band. It's magical, and it reminds us how to be flexible. And you have to have the original rubber band. And they would laugh because it was just a brown rubber band, right? And you're going to come to the office, and I'm going to show you, what you can do with it. I said, but if you don't have the rubber band, it doesn't get. So you have these teachers walking around with these rubber bands, and they came to the office, and I had them shoot for prizes from 6 feet. And so it was, you could have seen some more like, I know I didn't win, but I'm going to try again. And it just brought the fun back into work. And I think we need to remember that we need to bring all those aspects back, because people are missing it, and they're missing the socialization. But it was good stuff. Follow me and you'll see them playing.
I love it. Well, and I love what you shared there about the phone call, Annette, because I think you made a great point about how it lifted your spirits just like it lifted the teachers that you called. So I love that you shared that. And you're right, bring the fun back in too. Anytime we can, we need to laugh whenever we can. And so, Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with Annette about the fun. We brought the ice cream truck to the front of the school. They got to pick whatever they wanted. We had the ice cream music playing. A lot of smiles that day. Of course, we were outside and there was social distance and everything was pre-packaged, of course, so we were within guidelines. But I think that was a lot of fun. The staff really enjoyed that. We've been doing drawings for like standing desks. They can have their devices mobile. They can walk around the classroom. Trying to get them, school gear, Sonic drinks. I think the biggest thing, and I think that's kind of like the trend here with all of us, is like the words of affirmation. Our teachers are working harder than they ever have before, and we need to make sure that they understand how much we appreciate them. And so I think the most impactful thing is, just bringing like a Starbucks drink in the morning and just telling them how much I appreciate them, and just having that small conversation. They realize that we have a lot on our plate too as administrators, and to take some time away from that busy day to then come and tell them how much.
Dr. Gutierrez, what about you?
Well, times are certainly tough, and the role of especially a teacher has always been very demanding, and now you're adding so much more to those demands. And some of the things that I've tried to do to help ease some of the burden and some of the anxiety is holding town halls in the summer every week with our staff and then our community virtually, to keep them informed on the happenings and the challenges that I was personally facing as the superintendent. We've also allotted professional learning time so that they can have that time to plan. For example, this Friday, they're going to have the opportunity to plan for the next grading period. We also pay teachers to write curriculum for the first grading period. And in sensing that our teachers were still overwhelmed, I added last week a half-day work day for the next Friday. And that's not campus or district led. It's just going to be for teachers to use that time to regroup, to plan, to grade papers, whatever it is that they need to do, organize their classroom. That's their time. I know it's not much, but I felt like we needed to do something to just ease some of that stress and anxiety. We're also delivering cakes to every campus on Friday. It is a half-day professional learning where many of our teachers are going to be engaged in planning, just to celebrate and acknowledge how much we appreciate them. It's such a stressful time, and we're just continuing to think of creative and unique ways to help make everyone's job in the district, especially at campuses, a little bit easier.
You said a great point there that every little thing matters right now. It's because there's so much going on. Everybody's jobs are so difficult that every little one of those things matters. And as we close this out today, as I've talked with administrators across the state of Texas and other states as well, the thing that I keep hearing is, I just need some advice. I just need you to tell me I can do this. I just need you to listen to me for 5 minutes, and then I can go on and do this, or things like that, because teaching is incredibly difficult right now, and unlike anything that's ever been done. But leading a campus or leading a district is also incredibly difficult right now. And we've often joked about how being the administrator on campus or in the district is a very lonely job, because until you have that position, you don't really know what they're going through. And now it's like everybody is a first year whatever, because we're all going through this for the first time. So I'd love if you could to just leave a word of advice or something you want them to walk away with from this conversation. If you're leaving people with one thing, what's your one thing going to be for them? And Annette, we'll start with you.
I think to make sure that that you're empowering others. Sometimes, there's other people out there, and they will be goodwill ambassadors for you. They can go and stick little positive notes in the restroom, or in people's classroom, and just start a goodwill in your school, so that way when you are doing something else, you have people out there that are spreading the goodness. I like that book by John Maxwell that says, we're not meant to be a river. We're meant to be a river, not a reservoir. And that's so important. And I think that's the most important. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, and you're empowering the others to do the good work too, so that there's more people out there.
I love that. Dr. Gutierrez, what's going to be your one thing?
Give grace. That's something I've said since I started holding the town halls back the end of June. I've just encouraged everyone to give grace for our teachers, to give our parents grace for our parents, to give our teachers grace. And I feel like this community, this staff has really done that. And it's made our work so much easier to manage because people are giving grace. It's just so important right now to give grace to everyone in your work environment, your home environment. And it's so needed in a time where we're dealing with so much in our society on top of COVID-19.
I think that's great advice. John, what's your thing going to be?
For me, I just like I mentioned earlier, that SEL component, you got to take care of you first before you lead. If you're not okay, you're not going to be able to lead your people. You're not going to be able to lead at school, in the home front, all areas of your life. So making sure that, that self-care is super, super important. I go back to Adam Sainz, and how he talks about all the importance of SEL and a lot of the different components that we've talked about tonight, and just making sure that, we're okay and finding that balance, that self-care that each of us truly needs to be the very best in all areas and aspects of our life.
I love that. Joshua?
Well, like Dr. Gutierrez said, I think the grace component, we need to make sure that we're giving ourselves grace. I think so much of us as administrators, we want to make sure everything is done and done correctly. And I know, John, like you were saying, we want to make sure everything is in order. And this is a year where that's just not going to happen. And I had an old superintendent who said that we need to make sure that we're shooting the closest alligator to the boat. And that's this year, right? I mean, each day it's going to be something different, and our priorities are going to change drastically within the moment. And so, we don't need to be leaving with guilt. We need to make sure that we're doing the best we can, but we just need to leave it at the door and give ourselves some grace that not everything's going to be perfect every single day.
And that was a very Southern statement you had there about shooting the alligator closest to the boat. I love that. That's going to stick with me for sure. I love that one. Well, LaToya, as you wrap us up, what's your one thing going to be?
I'm going to go back to gratitude. You have to be purposeful and intentional to look for the joy and to seek the joy that's already there. Search for it, find it. We had the pleasure of having a lunch and learn here in Region 4 with Laura Jack, and she talked about vent gratitude. And so the vent side, of course, there's so much that you can vent about, and it's okay to vent. It's okay to get those things. But then you have to also do the flip, which is to show what you are grateful for. And that helps to balance it out. It helps you to recognize that it's not all doom and gloom, that there's still light shining in, that our kids are still great, our staff is still great, and the world is still great in spite of the craziness that is 2020 and COVID-19. So just gratitude.
I love that. So much goodness. I know that nobody has all the answers right now, but I appreciate you five coming on and sharing with TEPSA today, just some ideas, resources, and kind of your own experience. So thank you all so much for being with me. I know you've got 1,000 things on your plate, but TEPSA appreciates your time. We also want to thank our listeners or viewers for joining us for another episode of TEPSA Presents. We do these twice a month, timely topics. And by the way, we also have our first ever virtual assistant principal conference going on right now, the whole month of November. And oh, what? LaToya and Annette are part of it, so you can learn even more from these two wonderful ladies, as well as I think like 10 other presenters. The sessions are amazing. They're available all month. You can go to TEPSA.org to get more information on that. But we'll see you again in 2 weeks.